An incredible discovery is one that surprises us with the things that it can tell us. A mysterious discovery is one that leaves us with more questions than answers. Using that logic, a discovery that's both incredible and mysterious is one that does both. This is a show and tell video, so let's show you some discoveries that match that description and tell you all about them. There are many examples of Neolithic art in Scotland, but none that pose as big a mystery as those known either as Towie stones or Towie balls. They're sometimes labeled more simply as the carved stone balls, which isn't a very imaginative title. The balls are not especially rare, but finding multiple examples of them doesn't get us any closer to understanding why they were made, or what they were used for. The first example turned up in Aberdeenshire in the 19th century, but more of them were still being found as recently as 2013. They're small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, measuring on average between 2 and 5 inches in diameter, and can be made of any common rock from granite to sandstone. Rather than being spherical, they're deliberately covered in raised areas and decorated with intricate lines and circle patterns. Similar patterns have also been found on artifacts belonging to the Picts, who lived in Scotland 2,800 years ago, but the stones are far older than that. Some are thought to be more than 5,000 years old. Theories as to their use range from their potential use as weapons to a sort of resume carried around by masons to demonstrate their skills when seeking paid employment, but they're just guesses. You might have seen this next artifact on the news relatively recently. In 2018, it was stolen from a museum in France, prompting a small national panic until it was found and recovered a week later. This is an object worth panicking about because it's truly one of a kind. It's a human heart contained inside a solid gold vessel, topped with a crown. This is the golden reliquary of the heart of Anne of Brittany, safely back inside the Dobry Museum. Anne was a hugely significant figure in French history. She's the only woman ever to marry 2 French kings, and also managed to find time to marry a Holy Roman Emperor before she passed away in 1514. Her death was considered such a national tragedy that the official period of mourning lasted for more than a month. In her own will, she specified that upon her death, her heart was to be cut out and placed inside a solid gold container before being sent to the city of Nantes and placed inside the tomb of her parents. Most of her wishes were granted, so her heart's inside the gold box. It may not be in the tomb of her parents, but the Dobry Museum is at least in Nantes. Fruitcake famously remains safe to eat for a very long time after it's been made. Even with that in mind, we'd have strong reservations about eating this particular fruitcake. It's more than a century old, and it was found in a hut on Cape Adare in Antarctica in 2017. The hut itself is a Borchgrevink hut, built by the Norwegian explorer Karsten Borchgrevink in 1899, and later used by other explorers. It's the oldest human-made structure in Antarctica. Borchgrevink didn't make or carry this cake though. It's thought that it dates to Captain Robert Falcon Scott's ill-fated Terra Nova expedition of 1910 to 1913. A company called Huntley and Palmers is known to have provided supplies to the Terra Nova expedition, so the fruitcake is probably their work. Scott himself never went to Cape Adare, so the cake must have belonged to the party led by First Officer Victor Campbell, which sheltered here for the winter of 1911. Experts say that the cake is in excellent condition and is still edible. We'll take their word for it. Because of their status as high-energy foods, fruitcakes are still popular choices for explorers visiting Antarctica. While we're talking about food, let's see what can be discovered by examining the contents of a Bronze Age lunchbox. This particular box was found when it was revealed by the melting glacier ice of the Lochen Pass in 2012, 8,000 feet above sea level in the Bernese Alps. The circular box is made of 3 different types of wood. The base is made of pine, willow for the sides, and larch for the seams. As the box is made of wood, it was possible for scientists to carry out radiocarbon testing, thus confirming it to be at least 4,000 years old. Amazingly, The same ice that preserved the wood also partially preserved traces of what used to be inside the box. Scientists have found alkylresorcenols clinging to the wooden interior surfaces, indicating that it was used to store or carry whole grains. Its presence in this specific location poses questions for historians. Was there a trade route connecting these Bernese highlands to the Valais? Or was it a simple case of a hiker packing a lunchbox before they set off on a long journey? In 2013, it was decided that the Neptune shipyard in Newcastle upon Tyne, England, would be expanded. Before expansion work began, archaeologists were asked to come and survey the planned construction site. When they did, they found an 80-foot-long stretch of wooden railway. This isn't any old wooden railway. It's the oldest surviving wooden railway in the world. When these rails were built in the 18th century, trains were yet to be invented. Instead, the railway transported wooden wagon-like vehicles known as chaldrons, which were pulled along the tracks by horses. This specific 80-foot stretch was part of the Willington Wagonway, which was built in 1785. It's so rustic that some of its sleepers are little more than tree limbs that have been cut down and wedged into the track. The find is internationally significant because the Willington Wagonway was the first to be built to the international standard gauge, which was copied from wagon rails to steam engines, and then became the standard around the world thanks to the spread of the British Empire. The discovery was in danger from the moment it was made, because the wood was suddenly exposed to the elements, but it's since been preserved. Emojis may one day become the most widely used form of language in the world. But if you think they're a modern-day invention, we've got a surprise for you. The smiley face is the most used and most recognizable of all the emojis, and it's easy to recognize it carved into the side of this 3,700-year-old sherbet pitcher that was found in Karkamış in Turkey in July 2017. The marking was made deliberately, and the style is almost identical to the type of smiley that people draw today. We think that officially qualifies this as the oldest smiley in the world. The pot was used for drinking sherbet, so it's highly likely that whoever owned it associated the object with good times and fun. The smiley face would therefore go hand in hand with its use. Back when the pitcher was made, the area it was found in would have been controlled by the Hittites, so never let it be said that the Hittites didn't have a sense of humor. The digital emojis we use today were created during the 1980s, but didn't enter wide usage until the late 1990s as the world moved online. Durham University's Museum of Archaeology in England had a special exhibit in July 2017, the first of its kind ever seen in the country. It was the first complete Roman fleet diploma ever to be discovered on British soil. The copper plaque, which has been turned green by age, records the rights and privileges granted to a Roman military sailor following their honorable discharge after multiple years of distinguished service. The fleet was given to a sailor called Tigernos in the year 150. Although people had been sailing vessels in and around the United Kingdom long before that, we don't know the names of those ancient sailors. Tigernos is the oldest known named sailor in British history. According to the plaque, he was born in Lancaster, County Durham, and served for 26 years prior to his discharge. As thanks, he and his descendants were granted full Roman citizenship and legal permission to get married. How thoughtful! The reason so few fleet diplomas have survived to the present day in one piece is that the descendants of their owners would often break off pieces of them to use as proof of their own citizenship. Perhaps Tigernos never had children. We can always rely on Egypt to provide us with a constant stream of archaeological discoveries. And here's a real slam dunk. It's the largest embalming cache ever found in the country, and it's been discovered at Abu Sir. Experts from the Czech Institute of Egyptology at Prague's Charles University have been at the site for some time, excavating a 26th dynasty cemetery. But to their immense surprise, they found the tools used to mummify the people buried here as well as the remains of the people themselves. It seems that after the work was done, the cachet was deposited in a large shaft in the westernmost corner of the cemetery. It's made up of over 350 pottery storage jars containing the residues and remnants of various embalming materials, bunched together in 14 distinct clusters. Some of them are puzzling. Archaeologists have found 4 matching limestone canopic jars bearing inscriptions identifying them as belonging to Wahibre Mary Neith, son of Lady Erturu. Despite the clear dedication, it doesn't seem that the jars were ever used. Perhaps Wahibre Mary Neith was seriously ill and expected to die but subsequently recovered. Or perhaps his relatives weren't happy with the quality of the work. In 2015, archaeologists at the Templo Mayor complex in Mexico City, Mexico, came across an enormous Aztec Zompantli. It's the name given to a gruesome artifact which is literally a rack of human skulls. In 2017, they found out that the Zompantli is even bigger than they first imagined. The skull rack, which is also sometimes referred to as a skull tower, was found beneath the floor of a colonial-era house. It's circular, measures 20 feet in diameter, and is mounted atop a platform that's 110 feet long and 40 feet wide. The skulls it's made from are roughly mortared together with volcanic gravel, sand, and lime. The Aztecs used Zompantli to display the heads of enemy soldiers who were captured in battle. After being caught, enemy soldiers would be sacrificed to the god the Aztecs believed in, after which their skulls would be pierced through the temples and threaded onto enormous wooden stakes before finally being mounted onto poles. If you ever need a visual aid, picture it as an incredibly grisly abacus. There are 676 skulls on the tower in total, but those are just the ones that remain. It's likely that there used to be thousands. In 2017, it was decided that a new national baseball stadium would be built in the Nicaraguan city of Managua. As usual, archaeologists were invited to excavate the site before construction began. In doing so, they found an ancient cemetery. The team found that skeletal remains were still present at the site, but they were mysteriously scattered around, rather than being buried in graves as if the site had been disturbed in the distant past. The team also found large pottery vessels, which are thought to be grave goods. This is a pre-Columbian cemetery site and was used between the beginning of the 9th century and the middle of the 14th. Unusually, the experts couldn't be any more precise than that. Equally unusually, there are also human remains inside some of the aforementioned large pottery vessels. Unlike the disarticulated bones, the vessels are in excellent condition and still have their fitted lids intact in many cases. Rather than being uniform in design, they come in various shapes and sizes, including squashed circles, pot-bellied shapes, and an especially unusual design which has been described as an alien egg. The finds have no known analog in Nicaragua. The variety of goods that have been found in Egyptian tombs over the years means that archaeologists can never be quite sure what they're going to find when they open one up. Even archaeologists who'd learned to expect the unexpected were surprised by the discovery of a wooden prosthetic toe attached to the foot of a mummy that was recently unearthed from the hillside tombs of Sheikh Abd Qurna near Luxor, though. A detailed analysis of the ancient prosthesis, which is thought to be around 3,000 years old, has revealed that it was reshaped and refitted many times over many years, presumably in an attempt to make it easier to wear for the woman who owned it. The degree of skill on display in the manufacture of the toe is impressive. It's anatomically perfect and comes with a comfortable adjustable leather strap to keep it affixed to the foot. It won't surprise you to hear that this is the oldest prosthesis ever discovered anywhere in the world, and it's a reminder that Egyptian scientists and doctors were hundreds of years ahead of their time. In early 2017, there was a heavy rainstorm in the Andes. When it eventually passed, it left behind something for archaeologists to find. That something is this crude mask of a human face. The copper mask is around 3,000 years old, making it the oldest metal object made by human hands ever to be discovered in South America. The discovery was made in the northwest of Argentina. It's a sheet of metal just 7 inches long and 6 inches wide, with slits or holes to represent the eyes, nose, and mouth. There are also small perforations at the edges of the sheet, which suggest that it may once have been attached to someone's face using string. If so, it would have been pretty uncomfortable to wear. Close to the site of the mask discovery, archaeologists found the buried remains of 14 people. One of the skulls was stained green, which implied that this person was wearing the mask when they were buried, and may even still have been wearing it until the rainstorm exposed their grave and ripped the mask away. It was long thought that metalworking in South America began in Peru, but this discovery strongly challenges that idea.
Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and enjoy watching new videos on my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you soon!